today's date? Well, as many of you know, in some of the classes in Mrs. Sable's class, back about maybe January, February, somewhere in there, you were giving, different students were giving presentations on topics, cultural issues, social issues, hot topic, items, all of that. When I was your age, 40 years ago, in 1973, the Supreme Court legalized Roe versus Wade, which meant pro-life was, abortion was legal. You may have heard in the news this past week, Kermit Gosnell, an abortion doctor in Philadelphia, was charged with multiple counts of murder. I used to teach junior high English, and I would tell students, it's important that as followers of Christ, you engage the culture. And in order to do it, two things must happen. You must understand the subject, be very clear, not fuzzy, on what the issue really is, and secondly, know how to communicate it. I heard a lot of great presentations, but on the pro-life one, when I heard Jerry, I thought I wanted everyone to hear one of your peers give this presentation. So again, let's welcome Jerry. Jerry.
Up here with this microphone. Been looking forward to this for quite a while. How's everyone doing this morning? Tired like always. My mother and father are in the audience. People over there. All right. Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad. All right. I'm here to talk about abortion. Abortion is a wide-ranging topic that is a hot topic that really everyone can have an opinion on to some degree. And contrary to popular belief, people think that abortion has to be Christianity versus atheism, vice versa. That's not true. Can I get the next slide, please? All right. As of what I just said, I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But that serves to set up examples of what we're going to get into. I'm about to show some very graphic pictures. You will see the aborted babies and what abortion is. If you're disgusted by blood or dead bodies or something disgusting, please close your eyes, because this is very, very intense. Okay? All right. Slide. Oh, okay. I forgot about that beagle.
That's my dog.
Pretty cute, though. I love beagles. Look at that thing. All right. Now for real. Now for real.
Oh, God.
Next slide. All right. Yeah. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the face of abortion.
That's right.
That is what is legalized today. Doing that to what could have been you, could have been me.
That's right.
That could have been a person who walks around us, is in our classrooms, is in the lunchroom with us talking. That could have been one of us. What happened? Next slide. Statistics, please. Look at those statistics. In just 1 year, 2008, 1.21 million children were aborted in just the United States. That's just shocking. That's all those people could have been here. So why weren't they? Next slide, please. So, to answer that question, why do people have abortions? You have the statistics here. And what happens in these statistics, and that we'll show in the next slide. Next slide, please. This comes down to a woman's decision on what she wants to do with her body. These are the reasons a lot of women gave for the reason for abortion. Say that they having a baby would interfere with their work, or that it would interfere with their work, school, or other responsibilities, that they cannot afford the child, or say that they don't want to be a single parent, or they're having problems with the husband or partner who gave them the child. I don't know about you guys when I look at that, and that just screams utter selfishness to me, doesn't it?
Amen.
That you would be so selfish as to kill your unborn child because you don't want to deal with them because they're an inconvenience. Is that not the very essence of being selfish? I can even call that getting near evil, to where you don't want to deal with someone so you kill them. That is just wrong. I find it hard to believe anyone who could disagree with that. And 1% of women said that they were survivors of rape, and that's why they didn't want to have the child. And only 12% of women include having medical problems backing their reason for the abortion. Now, if you look at a medical problem and a complication, you could try and justify it and say, okay, her life's at risk. Her life is not more valuable or less valuable than the child. That is where you can get into some discussion. Next slide. But for all these others, there really is no debating that. All right, deaths from abortion. Now, the fight to make abortion legal or illegal, as it is now, really will come down to a matter of numbers, statistics, arguments, debates. That's what it will come down to. And one of the things is saying that if abortion is made illegal, the number of illegal abortions will go up because women will still not want to carry their children and will still want to abort them. The illegal numbers go up, the more deaths that will occur of women due to illegal abortion. It sounds fair, right? You know, it does make a little sense. If you look at these numbers with me, you'll see that that argument is completely faulty and fails, in fact, counters and turns the table all over itself if you try and present that. If you look at the bottom paragraph, I did some math for you. There are about 50 million abortions that have happened in the United States since it was legalized. 50 million babies were aborted. And in third world countries, the number is about 1,888,000 compared to 50 million. If you value life, that doesn't add up, does it? In third world countries, the numbers of deaths from illegal abortion will be far higher than it would in the United States. In fact, in the United States, it's 400. 400 compared to 50 million lives. If you value life, you cannot use this argument. And of course, from Star Trek here, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Next slide, please. Now, another huge part of this argument and fight goes to what constitutes a human's life. When does life begin? Do humans have inherent rights? And when do those rights begin? If you look at the Bible, it's completely biblical that life begins at conception. It is stated. It speaks and says that before I was in my mother's womb, you knew me. You crafted me. You had my destiny all planned out. So if you're a Christian, you cannot doubt. There's no argument that life begins at conception. And then if you try and bring science into it and say, well, they're not technically alive until the third trimester or whatever, there is no real sound basis to say on a certain amount of time when the baby is alive or not if you do it that way. Why do we divide it into trimesters? Well, because it's about 9 months. Say we had 8 months. It wouldn't be trimesters anymore. It's completely arbitrary as to when life begins if you set it by that standard without God to say, this is when life begins. From conception. When the sperm meets the egg, it's fertilized, and at that very moment of fertilization, you have a complete human being. You have their DNA, their every feature, how their face will look, how their ears will be, their voice. All of that is determined as soon as they meet. Now, when you have the sperm and the egg apart, that is not a life yet. But when you put them together, you have a baby waiting to enter this world. You have one of us waiting to enter the world and become something. There's an argument there. Another strong section of the debate over abortion is if a human has intrinsic moral value. Intrinsic moral value can be defined as something having an end all in itself and not a means to an end. Money, for example, does not have intrinsic moral value because you use it to get things. What is money in and of itself? Paper. It's paper. It's a green paper that has a number on it and some dude on it. And you turn it into 5 things. Does that give you anything in and of itself? No. The money is nothing if you just have the money. It does not have intrinsic moral value. But look at everyone here. We all have intrinsic moral value. Because we are not an ends to a mean. We are not tools you use. We are not just something you pick up and hammer something into the ground with and then throw away. Humans are not like that. Humans are precious. Each and every human is loved. Each and every person, each person here has a calling, a destiny, something to live for, something to fight for, a life to have, people to love, a great life that's waiting for them to take it. Because every person is precious, every person is important. Next slide, please. Abortion is a woman's right. Now this is a really big part of it. You'll see radical feminists really get into this. This is essentially saying that first off, the mother has the right to kill her baby because the baby is part of her body, thus it's her body, thus she decides how to handle it. I guess it sounds good on paper, but it really doesn't in action when you think about it. If you look at the fetus inside of you as a woman, that is not your body. That is not your appendix. That is not your liver. That is not your heart. That is not something that makes you. A fetus is a living being inside of you. That to say a baby is part of a mother's body is like saying that a person on life support is part of an iron lung. No, they're not. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't add up. And to quote William Lane Craig here, very intelligent person, he says, from the moment of conception and implementation and the wall of the mother's uterus, the fetus is never part of her body, but it is biologically distinct and complete living being, which is, in effect, hooked up to the mother as a life support system. To say a fetus is part of a woman's body is like saying that a person on life support, or from the iron lung, or the intravenous equipment, I'm sorry, I misread that. Having an abortion is not like having an epidectomy. It is killing a separate human being, and to try and justify that on the grounds that a woman can do what she wants with her own body is just politically correct ignorance. And to look up this one, a lot of women will say they're raped, so they don't want to have a baby. Well, that's understandable if you think about it. It's like, well, she was raped by this guy. She doesn't want to carry his baby. She doesn't want to be reminded of the terrible past that she now carries with her. But again, going back to when we looked at the original slides, it was complete selfish the reasons women would give for an abortion. If you are raped, who is at fault? The person who raped you. They're the one who committed the sin. They're the one who committed the crime. They are guilty of their sins and actions. But what has the baby, the child, done? What has that baby done to deserve any form of punishment towards them for the sins of the father? That baby has not done anything wrong. If you were to go out, hunt down the man who raped you, and kill him in cold blood, you would be charged with murder. But if you were to kill an innocent baby who didn't do anything wrong, it's fine. Leave your check, please. We'll set you up for an appointment. Is that not just wrong? Is that society we live in, to where the innocent are punished with death for the father's sin? Is that right? I don't think so. And I can't think of anyone who could really argue that point, that that is fair to the child. Next slide. Those are the faces of children, of babies that are in this world. If you look at the original slides, those babies could have been those things. The corpses. What could have been one of us. Bloody remains of some barbaric practice. Next slide, please. The following is a list of famous people who could have been aborted due to medical reasons, or the family didn't take care of them, or they couldn't. So they gave them up to abortion, or they gave them up for adoption. Slide, please. Aristotle, Edgar Allan Poe, Faith Hill, James MacArthur. Those are just all the names on there. Moses. We all know the story of Moses. President Gerald Ford. President William Clinton. President presidents, leaders, people that were voted in by millions to lead a country could have ended up like the first two pictures. But they didn't. They didn't because their parents, their mother decided that they were worth fighting for, that their life was precious, their life was special. It meant something. It is something. Their parents decided to take a stand for their child and say, this is my baby, I love my baby, I will fight for my baby has every right that anyone I see walking around does. It is not just a bunch of cells and a body that's not really a human yet, because they haven't done whatever. That doesn't make sense. To say that a baby is not living because of a certain amount of cells. If I take all the cells out of your brain, are you any less of a human? No. You're still a human being. So why say that about a baby? It's not a baby. Thus it doesn't have any rights. Thus it's okay to murder it because it doesn't have a certain amount of cells. There are two more on here. Two more people. Jerry Howard and Josh Hamlin. Myself and Josh. Our mothers had severe problems when it came to the pregnancy that they endured. But did they say we're not worth it? Did they place their own selfish desires of not wanting to deal with it? Did they put that in front of the life that they were carrying inside of them? No.
Thank you.
Did they give up? Did they? Josh and my mother. Did they say that we're not worth it? Did they say a life was not worth 9 months of theirs? No. They didn't. Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
But it was not only them. It was the man who was there to support them, to care for them. Josh's father, my father, they were there to support our mothers, care for them, be there for them throughout all of it. And that is what a real man will do. He's not going to run away when the woman's pregnant and be like, later, I'll send you a check. That is not what a man does. He stands with his son or his daughter who hasn't been born yet. He stands with the woman in his life. He loves her, supports her, and cares for her throughout all of it.
Amen.
That is what a real man does. Next slide. Now this abortion topic just rages on. It's a battle that just people keep fighting and arguing about over and over and over again. And it's so terrible that it has to happen that way. That we have to turn on each other and even think of fighting for a baby's life. Like it's actually a question. Is a baby not a human? Does a baby have rights if it's not born yet? When does life begin? Does it have intrinsic moral value? Is it worth fighting for? That's something we'll have to answer for ourselves. It's something we'll have to make a decision based upon. I'm challenging all of you. Take a stand. Take a stand for life. Take a stand for those who are not born with us yet. Why does someone take a stand for a baby and say, I don't want you to abort this baby. I don't want babies to be aborted. I think it should be illegal. Why does someone do that? They fight for those who do not fight for themselves. That baby in the mother's womb can't say, Mommy, please don't kill me. Mommy, I want to live. I want to have a chance in this world. I want to take my first steps. I want to say my first words. I want to say Daddy. I want to say Mommy. I want to go and do things in this world. The baby cannot say that. The baby cannot defend itself. It doesn't have the ability to. So that's why people need to stand up and fight for that baby. Because that baby needs them. It needs people like me. It needs people like you, all of us, to stand up and say, a baby is worth fighting for. A life is precious. A life is worth it. So I challenge all of you to take that to heart. Now I'm not saying go out there and argue and yell it out in the Capitol building. No. But take it to heart. Think about it. If someone's thinking about it, talk to them, minister, and say, this isn't the option you're looking for. Because women who have abortions way down the road of life can regret it. Say you're 25, you got pregnant, aborted the baby, never saw the man again. You live with it. You were fine at first. Then think 50 years later, in your 70s. Maybe you're sick, terminal, lying on your deathbed in your final moments and wondering what could have been. Your family's around you in your final moments, and you're wondering, could my son or daughter be here holding my hand in the final moments? Could they be here to say one last time, Mom, I love you? Could they be there? You'd never know. You would never know throughout your entire life what could have been. Who could have been? You would never know. Take it to heart. This isn't a battle that deals with just objects. This is a battle over life. Precious life, human life. When you have that face inside of you, that's not a bovine, it's not a feline, it's not going to be a dog. It's a human. It's a human growing within you. And only you can fight for them and make the final decision that if they're going to walk among us, that if they're going to be somebody going to have a chance. And if you think, well, maybe the child won't have a good life, it's called adoption, people.
Yes.
Maybe you think, I can't care for it, it's called adoption, people.
Yes.
And maybe you think that this baby won't, I can't give it what it deserves, I don't want to know that I have a baby out there and I never know him. That's just selfish. That is just selfish. If you would place 9 months of your life over the entire life of another human being and then justify it by hiding behind some legal piece of paper that says, oh, it's okay to do. What kind of person does that? I can't think of any good person who would hide behind a paper to justify killing their unborn child. I mean, you ask a parent, I know I've asked my mom or dad this any moment, and I'd ask them, what was the most special moments in your life? They would say, when my son or daughter was born. They would say it was when I held my baby for the first time, looked into their eyes and knew this was mine. This is my baby. This is my son. This is my daughter. I guarantee you they would never regret making the decision to fight for the life of their baby. In closing, make the decision in your hearts and in your minds to value human life. Because that fetus is a baby. It is something special within you. And it is worth fighting for. Thank you.
Standing ovation. Oh, I got a standing ovation. Awesome.
You're a great little man there, buddy. You did good.
Awesome.
Killed it, bro.